Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready to dive into something truly mind-bending today? We're exploring near-death experiences. Those moments where people brush with death and come back with these incredible stories. It's a topic that's fascinated humanity for centuries.
It really is. And what's so intriguing about NDEs is that they often go beyond just vague feelings or sensations. People come back with incredibly detailed accounts of what they saw and felt, sometimes even things they couldn't have possibly known. It really challenges our understanding of consciousness.
Exactly. And to make things even more interesting for this deep dive, we've got some amazing source material. An interview with Dr. Manuel Sans, a physician who's been researching NDEs for years. He's collected firsthand accounts from his patients who've had these experiences.
His perspective is especially fascinating because he's coming at it from a medical background. He brings a level of skepticism and rigor to the research, which makes the accounts he's gathered even more compelling.
Yeah, it's not every day you get a doctor diving into the world of near-death experiences.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. One of the most common elements people describe is this out-of-body experience. That feeling of leaving your physical body. Dr. Sans had a patient who experienced this during cardiac arrest, and, well, it wasn't just a vague floating sensation.
Definitely not. She described observing the medical team working on her body from a vantage point above. She recounted specific details like the heart massage, the doctors using a defibrillator.
Wow. So she could see and hear everything happening in the room, almost as if she were a detached observer.
And that's a pretty common thread in these out-of-body experiences, this feeling of being separate from the physical body and able to observe events from a distance.
It's like their consciousness is somehow detaching and almost becoming this separate entity. And it gets even wilder because this patient claimed she could pass through solid objects.
Yeah, she described moving through Dr. Sans himself and even through walls, which obviously defies our everyday understanding of the physical world. It makes you wonder what solid even means when we're talking about consciousness in this state.
Right, are the rules of physics different when it comes to consciousness? And her movements weren't just random. She actually recounted events happening in other parts of the hospital, including a specific surgery that was taking place in a completely different area.
And this is where Dr. Sans's approach really stands out. He actually verified her observations, confirmed that the surgery she described was indeed happening at that exact moment. It adds a layer of credibility to her account.
It makes it harder to dismiss it as just a hallucination, right? It really points towards something beyond our typical understanding of perception.
Exactly. It suggests that maybe consciousness during an NDE isn't bound by the same limitations of time and space that we experience in our everyday lives.
Like a non-local consciousness.
Precisely. Where awareness isn't limited to a specific location. And it's not just a one-off case. Similar accounts of this non-local awareness during NDEs have been reported globally. So there's definitely a pattern here that's hard to ignore. It's almost like we're getting a glimpse into a reality where the usual rules don't apply.
Okay, so we've got out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
Passing through walls. And now the possibility of transcending time and space is starting to sound like something straight out of science fiction.
I know, it's incredible. But these are real people with vivid and consistent accounts. And it gets even more intriguing when we consider another common element of NDE's encounters with beings of light.
Yeah, those beings of light. These encounters are often described with a sense of profound peace, harmony, and unconditional love. Dr. Sans's patient described it as a feeling of complete bliss unlike anything she had ever experienced.
And while the interpretation of these beings varies depending on individual beliefs, that sense of overwhelming love and interconnectedness is a recurring theme. Some connect them to religious figures, while others see them as representations of pure consciousness or universal love, like a collective consciousness that binds us all.
This collective consciousness. It's fascinating how these experiences often lead to a profound shift in perspective for people. Right? They return with a sense of interconnectedness, moving away from that dualistic view of the self as separate from the world to a sense of unity with everything around them.
Exactly. It's like their consciousness shifts from that observer and object mindset to a feeling of oneness, a sense of belonging to something much larger than themselves. And often this comes with a reluctance to return to their physical bodies and the everyday world. Dr. Sans's patient described her earthly existence as a calvary, compared to the peace she experienced during her NDE.
It's almost as if they've gotten a taste of a different reality. And coming back to this one feels almost like a step down. It makes you think about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical body. If these experiences are offering glimpses beyond our everyday perception, What does that mean for our understanding of life and death and reality itself?
That's a huge question, one that we'll definitely keep exploring as we dive deeper. But before we move on, I want to hear from you. What are your initial reactions to what we've uncovered so far? What stands out to you as particularly intriguing or thought-provoking? Take a moment to reflect on these concepts before we continue our journey into the world of near-death experiences.
Back again to the deep dive. Exploring these incredible near-death experiences and how they challenge what we think we know about consciousness. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. One of the most profound shifts people report after these NDEs is a change in how they perceive consciousness. Like they've glimpsed a different way of experiencing the world.
Right, like moving from that dualistic perspective where there's a separation between the self and the world to a sense of unity and interconnectedness.
That's exactly it. Dr. Sans describes it as moving away from seeing ourselves as separate observers of the world and toward experiencing a profound sense of oneness with everything around us.
It's like those boundaries between observer and observed. They just dissolve, leading to this feeling of interconnectedness with all of existence.
You got it. And this shift toward unity is often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of love, but not the kind of love we typically associate with relationships. It's much broader, more all-encompassing.
Almost like a love that permeates everything.
Exactly. And Dr. Sans even draws a parallel between this and the biblical, quote, God is love, suggesting that maybe these NDEs offer a glimpse into a kind of divine love that transcends our everyday understanding.
That's a fascinating connection. And what's remarkable is that this concept of a collective consciousness, this unified field of awareness and love, appears in NDE accounts across cultures and time periods.
Right. It suggests there might be something more to our existence than just our individual minds, like a deeper level of interconnectedness that we only become aware of during these extraordinary experiences.
It makes you wonder if we're all connected in ways we just don't fully grasp in our everyday lives.
Now, this brings us to another really intriguing element of NDEs, the life review. It's often described as a moment where individuals see their entire lives flash before their eyes.
But it's not just a passive replay of events, is it?
No, not at all. People report experiencing their past actions from the perspectives of those they affected. It's like reliving their lives through the eyes of others.
That sounds incredibly immersive and intensely emotional.
It is. It's not just about witnessing events. It's about feeling the impact of those events on others, which often leads to profound realizations. Remorse for past wrongs, a renewed sense of purpose.
Like a chance to reevaluate choices and understand the ripple effects of your actions, but from a completely different perspective.
And many who undergo this life review come back transformed. They become more compassionate, more altruistic, less focused on material possessions, and more in tune with their spiritual side.
It's almost as if they've been given a glimpse behind the curtain of reality, and they've returned with a deeper understanding of what truly matters.
It really makes you think, if NDEs can have such a profound effect on individuals, what could happen if we as a society took these experiences more seriously? Could they offer valuable insights into how we live our lives, how we treat each other, and how we approach the mysteries of life and death?
Big questions, for sure.
Yeah.
But before we go any further, I want to bring the focus back to you. What are your thoughts on these concepts of a collective consciousness, the life review, and the potential transformative power of NDEs? Do they resonate with your own experiences or beliefs? Or maybe challenge any preconceived notions you might have had?
We'd love to hear your perspective. Take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed before we delve into the scientific and philosophical implications of these extraordinary experiences in the final part of our deep dive.
And we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into near-death experiences. It's been a wild ride exploring these stories and the questions they raise.
It has been. And it's easy to get caught up in the wow factor of these accounts. But I think it's important to take a step back and really consider the broader implications. What do NDEs suggest about the nature of consciousness itself?
Right, that's the big question, isn't it? And to even start answering that, we need to look at how science is trying to make sense of these experiences. There's been a growing body of research trying to explain NDEs from a neurological and psychological perspective.
Yeah, some researchers believe that NDEs are essentially hallucinations brought on by oxygen deprivation or the release of certain chemicals in the brain during times of extreme stress.
There's also the theory that NDEs could be explained by temporal lobe seizures, which can produce altered states of consciousness and really vivid hallucinations.
But the thing is, many NDE accounts include details that were later verified. Like that patient we talked about who described specific events happening in other parts of the hospital, things they couldn't have known about through normal means.
That's what makes it so hard to explain through just physiological processes alone.
Right.
How do we account for accurate perceptions of events happening outside the individual sensory range?
Exactly. And that's where those purely physical explanations start to break down. It seems like we might need to consider other possibilities. Possibilities that push the boundaries of what we currently understand about the brain and the mind.
So NDEs are kind of forcing science to grapple with some pretty big questions. Could consciousness exist independently of the physical body? Could it operate outside of the constraints of time and space as we know them?
It's pretty wild. These are questions that used to be confined to the realms of philosophy and spirituality, but NDEs are bringing them right into the scientific arena. And it's super interesting to see how research is evolving and challenging our assumptions about the nature of reality itself.
And it's not just the scientific implications. There's a whole philosophical dimension to NDEs too.
Oh, absolutely. They force us to confront our own beliefs about life, death, the fabric of reality. If consciousness can persist beyond bodily death, what does that mean for our understanding of an afterlife? Do these experiences offer a glimpse into another realm of existence beyond what we typically perceive?
It's enough to make your head spin. But in the end, I think that's the beauty of explorations like this. They challenge our assumptions, they expand our perspectives, and they leave us with way more questions than answers.
And sometimes I think the most important thing is to simply embrace the mystery. Acknowledge that there are aspects of reality that we may never fully comprehend.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into NDEs, we encourage you to keep pondering these questions. What do these experiences tell us about the nature of consciousness? What might they reveal about the mysteries of life and death?
There's no one right answer. The journey of exploration is yours to take. Keep an open mind, stay curious, and never stop questioning the boundaries of what we think we know.
Who knows? Maybe one day we'll unlock the secrets of these extraordinary experiences and gain a deeper understanding of reality itself. Until then, keep diving deep.